Recording.
Yeah.
This was really cool stuff, actually.
Thank you.
So, I want to understand, I think that was the image of water with the multiple backgrounds, right?
Mhm.
How does rights work in a situation like this? For example, if a brand had to onboard you,
Yes.
they had their product, having so
Yeah.
I work for DR, we have a lot of bottles that we keep taking.
Right.
We are experimenting to tools like this, but the problem with generative AI is that like the rights issue of the background, right?
Yes.
How ready are you to jump the
Okay. So the question, maybe just to summarize, is about copyright issues with generated images or just the technology, you know, wherever do we stand? I would say that copyright concerns wise, there are two parts. One is with the training data. So a lot of the training data that's been used in these large models, they are simply straight from the internet, not necessarily having asked for permission from every single person. So the question is, what are the copyright issues with using this as a data set? Honestly, I'm not well equipped to answer, so we're waiting, you know, the jury's out on that. We're waiting for governments to have a more concrete I guess declaration about what are the laws related to that. You know, different countries have different opinions. I think Japan has taken a pretty liberal stance. I did read some time ago that Japan has decided that as long as it is publicly available on the internet, it should be also okay to be trained on without permission of the original owner. So that's what, you know, this country has decided, but this could change. I don't think we have enough clarity yet at this moment. So that's for the training set. The other part is with the copyright for the generated image. So I would say that for the companies that work with us, what we have always said is that the images belong to the companies as long as they're generated by the companies. The images that are generated, they are not taken from an existing stock library, right? Because they're generated from scratch. So you're not gonna find an image that is exactly the same somewhere else. We are not able to say for sure that you can copyright this without regulatory implications. We don't want to say that. It is kind of irresponsible because we still don't know what's going to happen. But in my opinion, okay, so first of all, the question about whether we are okay with working with brands, we're definitely okay with working with brands. I think the question is whether brands are okay with working with us. And to what extent are they willing to tread in this kind of gray area at the moment? From a technical research point of view, I don't see this images generated like this as being that different from an image that has gone through Photoshop editing, for instance. So before this, you know, a product photography image might have gone through extensive photoshopping, like maybe combinations of like different stock images and then, you know, creating this final product. I don't see that difference. So if you're able to copyright, you know, that image from Photoshop, why not this image? Yeah.
I think the difference there is all the layers that you do while waiting for all of them have to be individually bought.
Right. Right.
So that's the reason you end up owning the copyright. But yeah.
Yes.
So the difference here is if the final image is created, can I own it or will it go back to a system myself? Because if it's a brand image, brand product on the image, is there a gray area there?
Okay. Okay. So I think it's kind of where I might be a little bit more I don't know how to put this, but to me, right, it is kind of like if I'm working for a brand, right, and I want to take this great product shot, and I'm like, okay, I need some vegetation in the background. I go to McRitchie, I take a photo, and then I use that. So that's fine, right? Because so how is that to me, it is similar in Genesis when an AI creates the shot. Yeah, but that's an opinion of a tech entrepreneur, and I'm pretty sure that is
cases in the US around this specifically, and there's been a bunch of companies that have come out like Adobe and
right.
the rest of these guys saying we will defend the rights of those photos, by the way.
Yes.
And the reason being because of there's been a bunch of cases that have been won against people claiming copyrights.
Right.
So it's going to be different for every country.
Yes.
And they can't say that. I think the risk is becoming lower. It's a lot more understood than other money.
Yeah,
it's more accepted to be used.
I would also say that when a company like Adobe with a huge stock library comes in to say that they're gonna defend stock libraries, there is a lot of different factors in there.
We will help you if you got it.
Yeah.
So that's a big testament.
Yeah, and I mean it is in it for them, as a company as well. Yeah, I think the other way of looking at it, maybe not the right way to look at it, is when the image is generated, can you tell where did it come from? You know, if you can't, does it make a difference? I think that might be another way of looking at it. I'm not sure. Yeah.
There's another angle to the same share, because let's say there's a bottle with a similar background, and then somebody else competing brand comes and tries the same thing.
Right.
Will they end up getting the exact same background? Those kind of issues may also happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean that is very unlikely. Given how the algorithm works. And yeah, I mean that is exceedingly unlikely. I mean, we could do some things to purposely create the same image, but
eventually it's based on some kind of descriptive.
Yes.
You have to provide some description.
Yes.
It's like based on this.
Yeah.
If there's close resemblance, then
Right.
That's not very different from using a Canva template.
Yeah, I mean
Thousands of brands use the same template.
Can you close down the system where you say the brands can basically all creative that they own, they give to you, and then you only use that creative that they own
Yes.
to generate.
So that is an alternative that we are actually exploring with this photo studio, where they are interested in a certain style. And in order to replicate that style, we essentially train a model that's just for that style, using their assets, and this model will essentially not be used for anyone else. Yeah, I mean that is another.
You would still use an underlying.
Yes, so that is the
which is
thing.
trained on millions of other.
Yeah.
The paper is inspired.
That's part of the.
Like that.
So it depends, because as mentioned, we still need to build on top of a model that itself was trained on billions of images. And then we fine tune that on your image. Yeah.
So like OpenAI or ChatGPT allows you to say that don't use what I'm providing you right now for further training of your model. You can say that, okay, but like what they have already pre-trained, you know, using that on your list. Right, so you definitely probably will be required to provide that to the brands.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of images I'm giving you to get a control net or a fine-tuned model is something that I don't want you to use for others. That's But what has been pre-trained is still
that's how it yeah.
I think it also depends if you can give like models which is basically trained on my brand assets. Not general purpose.
Yeah, but that model can only be seen. This is a big difference with transformers and previous deep learning models. Like previous deep learning models, you need to give me millions and millions of images to train.
Yeah.
Right. But now with transformers, it's like that is pre-trained that comes out like a diffusion. Then they're giving you fine-tuning layers on top where you can upload your like images to fine-tune, right? Like correct me if I'm wrong technically.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't mean that the underlying model has been still trained on publicly available data in the case of as well, right? So that risk still remains. Your data could be protected by a system that you're uploading to Pebblely might say, okay, no, I'm going to keep your data is never going to get into my public trained data set if I'm doing process, right? And one interesting thing that's happening in the industry is all the stock libraries like Shutterstock and Getty Images have really understood this is a very lucrative space. So they're licensing their images to likes of OpenAI, Meta, Google, everyone, others included, to basically kind of train your this thing, and they do have a plan. You can go and buy a stock image library if you want to train your own model. It's going to cost probably upwards of millions of dollars to do that. I'm trying to say is that the likes of Adobe have tried to come out, differentiate themselves against, let's say, a runway or a stable diffusion by saying that, okay, my data that I use for training is safe for copyright by default, right? Because I am compensating, because they have a huge stock library and they're compensating the copyright owners for using that in the training. They are claiming they do it correctly. Other way is that. And so people are now creating, now that could be seen as these people who are doing stock photography, people are creating a lot of photographs, and it's very complicated by models. But that model is now going to also take into account, literally, I might use your image for training an AI model. I might license your image to train on the AI. So that industry is changing actually.
So let's go to a online question. Can you share more about the efforts for video generation? What is currently a good source to get the best information?
Okay, so I would say, so the funny thing, okay, so first of all, I think Animate Diff, Animate Diff is probably a really promising one and definitely runnable if you're looking at, I guess, okay, so it depends on how big your team is. So for us, because our team is really small, a lot of our experiments are run on like maybe either locally or just like AWS instances that we rent. We can't deploy like huge ass models. Animate Diff is a really good alternative. So that would be something that and because it is so lightweight, a lot of open source folks are developing on top of that. So I do see Animate Diff moving very quickly in the next couple of months. And so where to find, I guess, more resources on this? One of the, maybe let me go back to, okay, so the Banodoko Discord group is really actively developing this now. The problem is that I think if you click on this link, or if you search this on Google, you're not going to be able to find it. It's like a Discord group. I don't think it's like search friendly. But if you go to Stable Diffusion, the Stable Diffusion subreddit, and you search like Animate Diff, there is this one person who is just really active, and then he just keeps saying like, join my Discord group. That's the Discord group that you want to join. So that is how I found out about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share these slides, and I believe if you click on that link, that links to the Discord channel. So you know, I could share this with Chris, and then Chris could share this again with whoever attended on this talk. Yeah. So that would be that would be a Discord group that is doing really active work, open source work on text to video.
Marwa, do you want to ask any clarification questions?
Yes, please. You mentioned running the experiments on AWS instances. How light or how big are these instances?
Oh, okay. So I do have a tip for anyone who wants to do like AI, I guess, training on inference. Go for this instance called a G5. G5 instances, they would cost about $1 per hour. I believe it's either 16 or 24 GB GPUs. So it's A10, they are A10G GPUs, which are pretty capable. Fully, like I can run like 2 simultaneous copies of Stable Diffusion on a XL on a single A10G or like G5 instance. So look for that. G5.x large should be more than sufficient. That's what we are actually running a lot of our pipelines on, both in production and for training. Yeah. So that's that would be something that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did you know that Google Cloud has the same instances, but for cheaper prices?
Oh, I mean, so the cool thing is like we were part of the NVIDIA Inception program. If any AI startup is interested in that, let me know. Because I know folks there. And then they did offer credits on AWS for that. Maybe they have Google Cloud credits. I'll need to check. But I was just super used to developing on AWS. That's why. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for letting me know. Yeah.
I think Marwa was a product manager on Cloud Data Flow. Thanks, Marwa.
Thank you. Take care.
100s are still not in publicly available.
Oh.
We need to get a wait list.
Oh, right.
So, you mentioned something about this using off-the-shelf models and become smaller. So those off-the-shelf models, is that in reference to the open source models, or are we talking about commercially off-the-shelf models?
Oh, I would say, okay, so the question was, when I mentioned off the shelf, do I mean open source off the shelf or commercial off the shelf? Open source off the shelf. I mean, I would say that they are very capable. If you just like do a search on either, if you're interested in image generation, the Stable Diffusion subreddit, machine learning in general, go to the machine learning subreddit, Google the use case you have. There are a lot of interesting research tasks that researchers are working on. And I think that because in academia, competition is so strong, so many AI researchers are going in, that there's just been so much work, and all of them are just open sourcing the stuff because they want other researchers to cite their papers. So this is like a huge advantage, that a huge opportunity for anyone who wants to apply this commercially. So at Pebblely, a lot of what we're doing is inspired by a lot of open source work that we take. Parts that can be used as is, we will just use as is. Parts that we think would, if fine-tuned, will give us a distinct advantage, we will do that. Yeah, we don't actually use any commercial models. Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah.
I mean, when you mentioned the team is small, like how small, how big is that?
Oh, okay. So when we started Pebblely, it was 2 of us. And I'm the main tech person, so I basically coded up everything for the first app. So that's as much as I can get. You know, we've seen a lot of. I would say that you see a lot of like different startups now, like doing like AI stuff. Maybe they're building on top of OpenAI's API. You don't even need to post your own model. It's just prompting, right? And that can get you very far, actually. Running a stable diffusion model is not that difficult. I would say actually the hard part is in the traditional engineering work. Not really the AI part, because that's cool and fun, and all the open source people will do it and they're like, wow, look at all this cool stuff. And then they design like pipelines that actually work brilliantly. The trick is, how do we get this to work on a production level? How do we deploy it so that people can generate the images quickly? Set this up with a database, Supabase, set this up, and then scale this. You know, our servers went down multiple times as we were scaling all the way up to a million signups. So yeah, I would say that you don't need a research team at all, actually, with all of this out there.
And does the same advice apply to non-image AI, like for example, the traditional, just trying to make sense of text, generative AI text stuff, right? Would the same advice apply to try to use off-the-shelf models?
Yeah, I mean, again, okay, so with that, I think there are 2 main. Okay, so with that, I might legitimately consider commercial models depending on the use case. Okay, I need to preface this. I'm kind of speaking out of my ass here. I mean, I've been mainly in the image space for like the longest time, so not familiar with text. I've heard here and there about cool, text models coming up, but none quite as competitive as like OpenAI's or Anthropic's models yet. So yeah, I wouldn't want to comment too much on that. Yeah. Yes, Thor.
Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of your infrastructure and costs associated with it? I think specifically, like, you start out using commercial services, Midjourney, what have you,
Right.
and then sort of, what are you using now? Where are you going?
Yeah.
You're buying hardware anytime soon? Or...
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe a quick, I guess, tour of how we were at Inspect. At the beginning, I think we wanted, so my co-founder and I, we had the previous startup wasn't quite working out, right? And then we decided that we wanted to just keep rolling out things quickly. So we didn't want to spend like, I don't know, 6 months building something that no one might use. So actually, Pebblely's first app took us 2 weeks to build from nothing, including like fine-tuning of the model, setting up a database, the front end, UI design and everything. And we launched it on product time, January 4th. And the initial spec was I mean, not to sell Superbase too much, but it was just really simple to get a database started on top of Superbase. And I had worked at a previous startup where we were setting up an SQL database from scratch. Honestly speaking, we didn't quite get that off right, in terms of like security and then like hashing of passwords and things like that. But I think the nice thing is that using a commercial service like Superbase abstracts that away. So again, like I think it is identifying which parts would really if I buy this with money, could it save me a ton of time? So Superbase was a big part of our stack. We're building on top of Vue for the front end. In terms of servers for backend servers for AI inference, we actually deployed this from ourselves from day one. So we didn't actually use an alternative. So I did think about using Stability's API. So they did offer Stable Diffusion as an API, and they did offer the in-painting API, which is similar to the pipeline that we use. So we did try that out. There were some fundamental issues with directly applying that vanilla API to the task. So we realized that we did have to train our own model, and because we're training our own model, it made more sense to deploy it ourselves. So if you're familiar, there's this service, I think Replicate, where you can upload a GitHub repo or like a model, and then it will host that model for you, and this like API endpoint, right? And I think the issue with that, there were 2 problems. One was we realized that it didn't really make sense if we're doing like per call, because it was like per API call, it would charge you for that. It didn't seem to make sense when we were comparing it to running it off our own servers. The second, which is actually the more important thing, was there was a cold start problem. So with AI models, a lot of these API services where they run these models for you, they would usually only start loading the models when you make the first call. And then maybe a subsequent call comes in. If the model is still warm, like loaded in memory, then they could immediately run that API call. But otherwise, if they had already taken it off the GPU, they will need to reload it. That constant loading and reloading does take up time. And when we wanted a service that could generate images in like 5 seconds, that wasn't really a viable solution. So in the end, we decided to run it on our own servers. We actually started it with just one G5 server. We did not expect it to get too much traction. Our aim was like $200 in revenue by the end of the first month. We hit that by the second day. So we had to scale that up. So essentially, for the more technical folks, we were running both the API and the Python pipeline for the image generation on a single server. That was a little cumbersome as we started to scale. So we eventually went to a more scalable infrastructure where the API was on, 2 EC2 instances, just the server, the API. That sends tasks to a RabbitMQ plus RabbitMQ queue, which is actually just a queue. So whenever the API receives the task, it puts this task on a queue. We have a much larger GPU cluster that would always monitor the queue, take tasks off the queue whenever they see one, work on it, put the result back onto the queue, and then the API instant takes that completed task and then returns it to the user. So with this, then we just need to scale up the GPU cluster whenever we get like huge traffic. It is a little bit more scalable. We haven't gone down the route of Kubernetes and all that yet. I think partly it's just I don't have experience with that, and we are backend engineer who might be more competent at all this scaling thing. Again, with all this AI stuff, it is less about the cool research applications. A lot of work when you're actually running a business comes down to the more traditional engineering of the pipelines. For now, even at the scale that we're seeing, this queue infrastructure works relatively okay. I would imagine that as we go bigger, then we might need to evolve that again. But yeah, that's what we've been working with.
So now it's on AWS.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you charge your users from day one?
Yes. Actually, we did.
Do you have a free tier or?
So we do have a free tier. So actually, the context is this. It was December. Dashlibase wasn't really working quite well in terms of monetizing. Like we had people super interested, but we didn't find we couldn't really think about good ways to monetize it. So I haven't had a salary for close to a year. You know, my co-founder, similar situation, and I think morale wasn't very high. So I think what we decided was that we would roll out experiments really quickly, but always charge them to test monetization early on as a lesson learned from Dashlibase. So yes, from day one we were charging. We did have a free tier. So originally it was just 40 images. And that's it. And then so on the free plan, 40 images, you have access to a set of themes that we have. But if you pay, then you could like type the custom descriptions. Yeah.
Ask
Yes.
about your pipeline, right? So you mentioned different techniques and different models. Is your pipeline based on a few different models which you have to train each one, or is it one monolithic model when you ask that model and it does the distortion of the image, does the imprinting, all in the same model and it churns out the image? Or is it...
Oh no, it's several components. So like I mentioned, I think we will prefer to build a pipeline made of modular components. So as an example, our background removal bit, it is a piece by itself. That is actually fully open source. Like my co-founder doesn't like me to share like when we like even though it's open source, right? But sometimes there is work when it takes when you have to Google and test out different. Okay, but anyway, there is this if you're familiar with Python, go to the pip index, just search transparent dash background. That model does really well for background removal. It's completely open source. I have no idea why people still pay us for background removal, but it's completely open source. So I would say that, you know, if background removal is a key part of the pipeline, use that. It is probably way better than anything an amateur team might be able to train. Yeah. So your question, totally modular. A lot of the parts are actually open source. Key parts where, okay, so I think first of all, when we're running anything, when we see a new use case, we would assemble a pipeline out of open source components. First of all, ideally it should be small enough to run on my personal workstation. So I have a 2080 Ti, super old, but you know, it still works for a lot of these AI tasks. Run it, see a sample, you know, does this even look decently good enough? And then because I was an AI researcher before, look at the pipeline, which part do we need to improve? What does it take to improve that? Is it more Googling about for better, or is it actually a requiring custom training? That is the part where that differentiates you, you know, from different teams doing the same thing. They're gonna look at the same pipeline, they might have different opinions on what needs to be changed. Yeah.
So I great.
Oh, okay, thank you.
What I'm interested in, because you talked about background removal, you talked about distortion of the lesion.
Yes.
Doesn't that mean that when I call,
Yeah,
and it takes about maybe 10 to 20 seconds to return,
right.
does that mean that your servers will ping different external services, or is everything posted on your cloud?
Right. Okay. So actually, for the app, there are a few different parts. So when we talk about the pipeline, right? You can notice in our app, the background removal actually comes first as an independent step. So once a user uploads a product, we do background removal immediately. So that is the server for background removal task. Then after that, the actual product image and then the background generation is a subsequent step. I mean, honestly, this is up to you. Previously we had everything all on a single cluster. So like each GPU server would have an entire pipeline for the image generation. It is a little bit more, I guess, two parts. I think it's more efficient at having to send that payload to different servers. The other thing is, from an engineering point of view, it might be simpler to have while everything is modular, but still have everything in a single repository. In terms of just working with other researchers. One thing that we are actually rolling out later today is we have a new pipeline that takes up a little bit more time, but has significantly better quality. We tried rolling this out previously, but some people were not happy with the slower generation time. So we decided to turn it into an option. And now because we have two big ass pipelines, we need to post them on like separate server and separate endpoints. Then it's like two different clusters doing one with the better but slower generation, but one that's faster but less good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it really depends on the situation.
So we wrap things up here and then you can answer one-on-one questions.
Sure.
So before we do that, I think what I found in some of these meetups is good to introduce ourselves. So
yeah,
people can find each other and know what we're looking for. And I can start just give 10 seconds right now. Chris, I'm looking to organize more events here in Singapore around AI. We want to do a weekly AI series of events. If you have any suggestions, speakers, locations, please come look for me, and I'd love to get your suggestions. And also, if an event like this, $20 is too much or too little, just let me know. We can figure out pricing. Joe, next.
Yeah, hi. I used to work at the place Paramount where you guys are at, for venture capital. But now I am doing eco investing in Sunny Mountain startup. Oliver, I used to work with Joe here as well, so I'm looking for my next role. So I work between tech and programs and pretty product
management. Also working with Ollie and Joel. I'm a data scientist here at Paramount, but also looking for my next role.
I'm Lev. I'm working with generative, so I'm also looking for my next role. I work with startups and preventions and
Right, from a venture capital firm, you meet many people that are within the Singapore tech scene.
Are you actively investing? Yeah. Startups to go to see here.
Usually, I visit a sponsor, and you see, it's very interesting.
I'm Vasant. I also run a small startup called Confetto. We basically also focus on something like content generation. And I also help other startups with building products on top of generative.
I'm Jay. He's a software engineer at Google. Not just kind of learning more right now. Looking for something next.
Hi, Dylan. I run a sales advisory company, also doing Salesforce implementations. Interested in AI because I see a lot of gaps in sales. Just trying to figure out how to use it.
Hi, I'm JD. I work at Google. Not just generally
Hi, it's me, entrepreneur at startup space. Doing some work in social commerce now, so very interesting.
I'm Siddhi. I'm a Xoogler. I've been yours. You know me. I recently joined Diageo and I'm working in the content space. One of my tracks is to move on ground production to AI production. So currently meeting a lot of startups and having conversations on how to do that.
Hi, I'm Jing Jing, co-founder for Superbench. We are a AI-powered scheduling software for service SMBs. Yeah, early stage. Feel free to come ask me about it.
I'm Robert from Salesforce. So I'm actually transitioning to a new role. So new role outside of Salesforce will be around content management, search and e-commerce. I enjoy XAWS, just let them recently only from Cal as well. So here we get some new ideas. Very interesting.
Hi, I'm Thor from Superbase, not to be mistaken with Superbench. Yeah, we do cloud infrastructure, database infrastructure, including vector-based extension on top of Postgres. Yeah, I'm not paying SK to about this. Great to hear it's being used. Also Xoogler back in London, Google Maps ages ago. Originally came to Singapore with Stripe, online payments, and yeah, now it's Superbase.
Hi, I'm CK. I'm currently a software engineer at a Japanese company. I teach AI to my company, but not the advanced one, just the basic statistical models. I also have my own startup on the side, nothing to AI. But yeah, I'm just here interested to meet people.
Hi everyone, I'm Adi. I run a digital marketing consultancy and I'm interested in AI because I'm just trying to see how I can incorporate it in my workflow for both myself and my clients. On the side, I'm working on a startup, which is more like a software platform. So that's where again AI is.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark. So I work in the fintech space, but I randomly have invested in a bunch of different companies in the past where I'm looking to also start my potentially participating in the generative AI space.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Naho. I'm still in Google as a technical consultant for Chrome browser, and I'm originally from Japan, but moved over to Singapore 4 years ago.
Hey, I'm Marshall. I'm a startup founder, exploring something in the legal tech space. So former lawyer, years back, startup founder, and been in the tech sector for a few years.
I am Chai, working for a bank. Exploring 5G here, I think. I came in between my words, so I'm just locked in. When people started buying, I was security consultant.
Hi, I'm Nemanja. People call me Nemo, like the captain or the fish. That depends. So currently in a shorter box between looking for work and wanting to build something in generative AI in the family safe space. So if somebody actually wants to build, but they don't know how to apply to a commercial, highly captive audience, please talk to me. Like this is technical help, but it's market is there. Just meeting folks these days. Overall, ex-Google, ex-Fintech, ex-startup founder, COVID killed it. You know the story. Anyways, look forward to meet everyone. Go.
Thank you. So I guess the last thing is you can see the drinks. Please have some copies of this. There's a good one as well, another stiffer drink. So I got everyone's details. So I'll send it out in an email. You can contact each other on LinkedIn and emails. I don't have it. I'll grab it.
We need to pay, right?
You can pay. There'll be a QR code I can send out. And I think the last thing is the startup I started is to help these facilitations that make it better, these professional communities. To me, ideas, because I don't know, we're going to release our own app for C.AI soon. And please give me some ideas. We'd love to make more of these more productive for you. And thank you, SK, for presenting today.
No problem. Thank
you. Yeah, so mingle away. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, feel free. It's